You ever wonder why people do this thing called fly fishing? Well, in today's video, we will attempt to teach you the basics of the sport of fly fishing. Now, I hope after this video you will leave as a much more educated fly angler, but keep in mind, this will not make you a better fly fisherman unless you put in the practice and time. So, without further ado, let's get on it. Luckily for you guys, since I'm not that good of a fly fisherman, I have along with me NEWFISHING. He's gonna become a fly fishing expert in the future. So I thought I would better let him do the explaining and then I'll do the videography.
The one major difference between regular fishing and fly fishing is the physics. In regular fishing, you cast a heavy lure with a light line. The difference in fly fishing being is that you're casting the line and you're casting a very light lure. So the first major step is getting your grip right. Now, what you want to do is you want to pretend like you're giving somebody a nice firm handshake and just grip the cork like this with your thumb on top. Not too firm, but just firm enough that you won't kill it. The next step is actually the casting. What is different about fly fishing is that it's a continuous motion. In regular fishing, it's just one simple cast all the way out there. But with fly fishing, you have to keep momentum. You have to keep going back and forth because you're not just throwing one big heavy lure, but you're throwing the line, which is all of the weight. So what you have to do is you have to kind of work back and forth, and that's the actual casting. If you think of your hand and the rod as a clock face, you want to keep it between 10 and 2 and this area here, and you're just going to move the rod back and forth in that general area, because what you're doing is you're using the rod to load all of the force of the line into the rod. And you're not actually casting it with your hand, but you're using the rod to load up and store the energy. So when you're casting, the most important part of the actual cast is not the actual motion, but the coming to an abrupt stop like that. You're transferring the energy from your arm and your wrist and your forearm in this area, and then you're gonna move your arm forward and then stop. Just imagine you're in your car and you're driving forward and somebody abruptly slams on the brakes. All the energy is going to go forward, and so what you want to happen is that abrupt stop carries the energy. And the same thing going backwards. Imagine if somebody accelerates really fast, you get thrown to the back of your seat. So you want to have that kind of accelerate to a stop and then accelerate to a stop going backwards. So it's key that you stop. The stop is really important, and sometimes people get carried away where they just keep going like this. And that's not what you want. You want the abrupt stop carries all of the energy. So here's what not to do. So in the process of demonstrating what not to do, I lost my fly, because what happens is when you go too fast like that, you can either break the line here because you're going too fast and the energy will just kind of break it, or I can actually hit your rod, which is what I did, and you'll lose the fly. So be really careful with where your line placement is in relation to itself, but also your rod. So here's what you should be doing. Noticing that I'm coming to a complete and full stop every single time I want to change directions. So when you're casting just a little bit of line, it doesn't actually require that much energy to cast, because unlike most conventional fishing rods, fly fishing rods are much longer, which means that they're able to cast the energy more efficiently. But what that means is that you don't need to really put a lot of energy into actually casting it. What you use is just your bicep, your forearm, and a little bit of wrist. So when you're casting, you're going to use your bicep primarily, and then you're going to flick a little bit of wrist in at the end, just a tiny bit. Now, breaking your wrist too much like this ends up happening what's called cracking the whip. And what happens with that is you bring your line around too quickly, so this happens. There it is. So cracking the whip is bad because that's another great way to lose your fly. The counter to that is you want to just wait a couple seconds. Now, when you're casting it, the time to come back is really hard to determine. You want to stand when you're first beginning so that you can see both parts of your line, the forecast and your back cast. And you want to wait until what we call candy caning. So the very end of my line just curls the very tiniest bit. And when you just start to see the end of your fly line curl, that's when you want to turn, so that you can preserve the maximum amount of energy, because you're just trying to transfer energy, right? And so going too early wastes energy, and going too late wastes energy. So you want to wait at the perfect time, just when it starts to turn, and you cast. In simple terms, that means you have to work on your timing. For example, the longer the line you have out there, the longer you need to wait as you're going back. And the shorter amount of line you have out there, the less time you need to wait when you're going back. So once you have your line out on the body of water, what you're gonna do next is I want you to immediately have your line under 1 or 2 of your fingers. I like to use this finger, but whatever works for you. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna strip in the line to whatever conditions may present to you. On a lake, it's much easier. You just have to work it in as you want your fly to work. But on a river, it's much different. You have to work on line control. That's something that we really actually can't get into right here. What's really, really unique about fly fishing is that, at least in freshwater fly fishing, you never, ever, 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 ever use the reel unless you're fighting a really big fish. You always want to strip the line in like this. So another difference from conventional fishing is that instead of using the rod tip to impart action on the lure or fly, you're actually going to use the line. So if you want to make it go faster or make short hops or make it sink slower, that you should vary your line retrieval rate. Because you have the line in your hand, the way you set the hook is also slightly different. When you have a fish or you see a fish about to eat your fly, the simplest hook set is to just pinch the line against the cork here and just do a regular backcast. So just one simple hook like that. So the other more complicated hook set is when you're fishing with bigger flies or in bigger conditions, called the strip set. And what you do is you just hold the line in your right hand and then you actually just strip the line with your left hand, one solid strip. So when you want to go for distance, you have to do something called shooting the line, which means that you actually let go of the line and its own momentum carries it forward. And it looks something like this. So another technique you might need later down the road is called the double haul. And that allows you to throw your line farther and also against the wind and with a heavier fly. And what you're doing is, instead of just casting your rod, you're also going to pull on your line at the same time. And that makes your line go faster, and that makes everything much easier to do. So even though this motion may look a little bit complicated, it's actually fairly simple. So instead of just going back with the rod, you're also going to, with your left hand, pull the line at the same time. So you go back and then you return. And you go forwards and you return. So just imagine you're putting the line in your pocket every time. You take your hand and you put it in your pocket and then you come back. So here we have just a very small collection of flies that you would normally use while fly fishing. Some of them are trout flies, other of them are bass flies. This is not an extensive collection by any means. So these are the 4 most common types of flies that you'll see in fly fishing. The first is the dry fly. It's the typical fly used for trout. What you do with this one is you put a certain type of chemical on it, and that allows it to float on the top of the water. So these particular flies mimic bugs that float along the top of the water that have fallen into the water. And so trout and other fish love to attack them because they represent easy prey on the top of the water. The next fly here is called a nymph, and these are usually, they can either be suspended below certain types of dry flies or just run on essentially a little bobber. Nymphs are particularly effective for trout because 90% of a trout's diet consists of things that are below the water, so only 10% are dry flies. The next fly we have here is called a streamer. It is particularly effective when the water gets a little cloudy or you want to go for bigger fish. So streamers are very effective for bigger fish because they represent bigger food like minnows and larger aquatic animals. The last type of fly, it doesn't really have a very particular type of name, but it's just the specialist fly. So essentially, if you're fishing for a very particular type of fish, such as a bass or a carp, certain fly tyers build very specific flies. This fly in particular is called a popper, and it mimics any type of animal that lives on the surface of the water, like sometimes a frog or just some disturbance on top of the water that bass love to eat. And there's tons of these types of flies that are, some are streamers, some are nymphs, and others are dries, but they just mimic something that is very unique to the particular bass's diet or ecosystem. So if you've gotten this far in the video, you might be wondering, what type of fly rod should I get to start off with? My recommendation is that you get something like a 9-foot 5-weight. In order to throw different flies, fly fishermen have to use a variety of different fly rods, and what we call them weights. And they exist from numbers between roughly 0 and 12. 0 is for the smallest of fish, and going all the way up to 12 is for the biggest of fish. A 0 weight is probably for your smallest of fish. Think microfishing in a creek. whereas a 12 weight is something for bigger fish out in the ocean for tarpon or something like that. From anywhere between a 3 weight and a 6 weight is primarily your trout and other smaller fish category. Some 6 weights and up to about 8 or 9 weight is going to be good for bass or saltwater fishing. So another really important part of choosing a rod is the action. Just like in regular fishing, you have actions such as medium, medium fast, and fast, and usually you want to stick towards a medium or a medium fast when you're just beginning. The faster stuff is when you're throwing bigger lines and heavier stuff. So I would stick towards a medium and a medium fast. So this is the line that makes fly fishing different than regular fishing. As you can see here, it's a little bit thicker and it has mass to it. So that's what enables you to cast it out. But another very important part here is what we call the leader. The leader is actually tapered. So it starts off really thick at this end by your fly line. And then as you go further down, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. The tapered allows you to transfer the energy most effectively. We call this the tippet, the very lightest part where you attach your fly to. The last major component of choosing a rod is length. Now, usually you would choose a 9-foot rod. That's the average rod that you would use. But for certain circumstances, you might want a shorter rod or a longer rod. For example, if you're fishing a creek, you probably want to use a shorter rod so that you can maneuver more effectively. And if you're casting from the shore, from like a beach, or if you want to just get more distance, a longer rod helps you do that. The greatest deterrent to entering fly fishing is the cost of entry, because fly fishing can get really expensive really fast. But don't let that deter you. You can get a nice combo from someplace like Walmart or Bass Pro or Cabela's for anywhere from a little under $100 to $150. I wouldn't go anywhere above or below that range until you learn that you're really good at fly fishing or you're really not good at fly fishing, because that $150 combo will allow you to figure out if you like it or not. And you shouldn't make an investment if you don't like it. And you also shouldn't make an investment if you're not good at it. I hope you've learned something from this video, and I hope that you can take what you learned and apply it on the water. And remember, as always,
fish for the adventure.